The reviews are in, and we're going to tell you what they are. He's Todd Vandenberg. I'm Rob Steele, and the prevailing theme for this show is going to be why. It's that kind of a week. I mean, let's start off with the really depressing stuff. We had some big name people leave this particular realm of reality this week.
Yes, we did.
And yes, I am going to include Hank Aaron on our list because he was on the Andy Griffith Show.
There you go.
As himself, but it counts. Larry King has left us. Mira Furlan, who was very popular on Babylon 5 and Lost, is gone. Gregory Sierra, who I'll admit I thought he was already gone, but from Barney Miller and Sanford and Son, which admittedly I had not put him together as the same guy. For some reason I thought those were different actors. I don't know why. The odd thing, though, is that none of them died of COVID. Or at least that's what they've announced so far. There might have been.
Larry King had COVID, but it was way back in December. Or no, it was earlier than that, and they haven't stated it was COVID. And he had so many health problems. I mean, geez.
Yeah, Mira Furlan died of, what is it, East Nile disease or something?
Oh, I hadn't heard what she passed from. So.
Which was just
crazy.
The kind of thing you go, how the hell did you end up with that? But that's all sad, and I'm very annoyed that they're gone now.
Yep.
But it is a good segue into the movies that have been pushed back, starting with Ghostbusters. That's a horrible segue, but I'm going to use it.
Segue. It's been pushed to the realm as far as a month ago.
Ghostbusters Afterlife, which was ready to go in July 2020, has been pushed back to November 11th, 2021. That's a year and a half, folks.
No, at least it's still.
It was done.
Yeah, and that's what we're seeing because so many movies are pushed back because theaters weren't open, and a lot of theaters still aren't. Like, for instance, here, where I live down in South Florida, no theaters open. So, they don't want to make movies for free. They want to make money, which is their job after all. So everything is getting shoved back.
Including the next Bond movie, No Time to Die, because apparently they can't figure out when they want this to come out.
Yep, no time to release.
No time to release. That seems to be the big one. If you've heard about a movie that was supposed to have come out any time in the last 18 months, they've all been pushed back. I'm not going to go through all the dates because it's ridiculous. And they're all going to change again anyway. So look up your individual movies. They've all changed.
Yeah, and keep checking your streaming sources every Friday because something may pop up that you weren't expecting.
Entirely possible.
Because they are changing all those deals on a weekly basis too. So.
See, we actually have an answer to the why for that one. I don't have an answer for the why to this. The She-Hulk show that is being produced by Disney Plus.
Yes.
Has a label on it. It is now being labeled as a legal comedy. And which to me sounds an awful lot like, what was the Calista Flockhart show?
Ally.
I forgot what.
Ally McBeal.
Yeah, thank you. Wasn't coming to me because I never watched it. Well, no, I retract that. I watched about 3 scenes and then went, I don't like it. Click. Don't do that. Now, She-Hulk, her alter ego, Jennifer Walters, I think it is.
Correct.
Is a lawyer. So I get the legal aspect of it. Don't make it a legal comedy. That just sounds horrible.
Yeah, we'll see how far they take it as far as being a comedy. If they take it in the direction of like WandaVision has a lot of comic moments, but it's not really a comedy, I can see that because they use Jennifer Walters as a comic relief in the comics.
Sometimes, yeah.
Sometimes, and breaking the fourth wall kind of stuff a little bit. A little smidgen of Deadpool there. Not nearly to that extent, though. So I could see if it's a comedy, an action comedy, which would totally fit. I mean, all the Marvel movies not including Infinity War, have their lighter moments for sure, but most of them have just hilarious bits. So if they're picturing this as something like Thor Ragnarok, which could totally be described as a space opera comedy, I'm all aboard. Yeah, I just hope they don't go too far for sure, because it is odd that they're. Hopefully, it's going to be lighter, and so that's why they're setting the tone. There's going to be a lot of humor in this one, which is fine. It would be great. Yeah, hopefully they don't go overboard and make it useless. It would be very weird for Marvel to make a misstep, but certainly not impossible.
No.
Interesting that they made that move, though, to give that label.
Got two other whys that have popped up this week in the news. And they involve remakes. And I'm going to talk a lot on the second one. The first one, Liam Neeson is supposedly going to be playing Frank Drebin in a Naked Gun remake. I got to admit, I didn't care for the Naked Gun movies in the first place. So, and Liam Neeson, if you do a movie like this, to me, it lowers everything you've done. Not to necessarily to this level, but Naked Gun was a stupid comedy.
Yeah, exactly. Like Airplane.
Yeah.
And I think the Naked Gun movies are really funny. I mean, I probably haven't watched any of them for 10 years, but they're funny movies. I can get the casting of Liam Neeson in it because he's done some great work, and lately he's been in his own private hell of stupid action flicks, which, I'll grant Taken was pretty good, but by the time you get to Taken 47, except this time it's on a subway or whatever the hell the latest thing he's done,
right?
It's like, come on, give it a rest, dude. So I think this is a good move for him because he can do comedy.
He can.
He's very good at this. And so you're taking this guy, which people don't think of Leslie Nielsen as a serious actor, but he was a very serious actor until they went against type and they said, oh, let's have this extremely straight-laced guy pop him in Airplane. And so then they saw, oh, he's got some comic chops. So they're doing the same thing with Liam Neeson.
Very, very straight man.
Yeah. We'll see when we're not talking about his sexual orientation because I don't care how that goes.
No.
But, we'll see. It depends whether it's funny or not. I mean, we know it's going to be stupid. Hello, it's the Naked Gun. If it's funny, then it'll work. And if it's got crap writing, like the Ghostbusters reboot that they did with the female leads, which had nothing to do with the fact that it had female leads. It had to do with a horrifically terrible script. Then it'll be good. We'll see. Always comes down to the script.
The other one, and I gotta admit, I really do not want this. On March 17th, 2023, Warner Brothers has set a release date for Wonka, which is the prequel to either Willy Wonka and the Chocolate Factory or Charlie and the Chocolate Factory, depending on which one you wanted to look at. It talks about the previous life of Willy Wonka, and here's my main problem with it. Charlie and the Chocolate Factory, the more recent of the two and the one that's kind of crap, and I will get to that in just a moment, had all the prequel stuff you need in flashbacks that were kind of creepy and ugly and everything.
Yeah.
The difference this time being that they're looking at get one of two actors to play Willy Wonka. That would be either Tom Holland or Timothée Chalamet, which I think is overkill.
Yeah. And either one would be fine. I mean, I really like Tom Holland, and Chalamet is quite good. He's certainly the flavor du jour for every project on the planet.
Pretty much.
But yeah, we don't need a prequel. They just need money. So that's what they're going for. Yeah, that's kind of. But before we move on to other topics, though, one more bit of news that came out is that it could be that Zack Snyder's director's cut of Justice League will not be a 4-part miniseries. It's going to be a 4-hour movie.
I've seen that, and I was kind of waffling as to whether or not to mention that in the show, because they're waffling as to whether or not it's going to be the 4-part. I've seen, it's definitely going to be, and then 10 minutes later, well, maybe not. Oh, no, it's going to be this, that, and
This
Make up your
all
minds.
came out from a tweet that that Snyder himself put out. Said, no, this is going to be a one shot. He didn't say it's going to be a 4-hour movie. He said it's going to be a one shot, which personally I think you can interpret as saying this is the only Justice Cut thing I'm doing. I'm not doing another Justice League follow up. It's a one shot, as in it's.
That's what I got out of it.
And that's what I got out of it. But the thing that's weird is that I haven't seen any clarification from HBO, Warner, anything. As in, no, he means.
Should I ask what that funky sound effect was?
Yes, that was a notification because I forgot to turn off my phone. Sorry. So
that's okay. Just like,
and actually, the
answer your house.
Was like, okay, I guess she's listening to the show that is not being broadcast live. Anyway, so that's where the confusion really comes up from, is like, because I took it as like he means it's the only movie, and a lot of people are thinking, oh no, it's a 4-hour movie, and no one is clarifying this, or they are, but they're clarifying it in different ways every 15 minutes, like you said. Like, how can you not know what you're going to do? I mean, doesn't it need kind of different editing if you're going to make it a 4-part miniseries or a 4-hour movie? And if you're actually considering making it a 4-hour movie, oh my God, you're even more stupid than to give him hundreds of millions of dollars to recut it. Who the hell is going to sit through a 4-hour movie?
That's not
even
Lord
if you're at
Rings.
home. No, nobody is going to sit through a freaking 4-hour movie.
See, I don't know that they've done. I haven't seen a movie long enough to do this in the States. When I was in Germany, I did go see Return of the King, which had an intermission.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't know if they do they do that in the States with longer movies. I haven't been to a longer movie in a while.
They did do it with the extended cuts of the Lord of the Rings trilogy.
They kind of have to.
The longest big commercial success I can think of. I mean, there have been longer movies. There are movies that are 9 hours long and just stuff like that. But John Wind checks in at just under 4 hours, 3 hours and 58 minutes, which I had to look up because I wasn't sure if it was just under or just over. And people sat through that with an intermission, which is mind-boggling to me because to me it's not that good a film. Sorry. It's a good movie. It's not a great movie. But no, not for Zack Snyder. Sorry, 4 hours, dude.
Well, admittedly, it's going to be released at home, so you've got a pause button.
Yeah, which is what's the point? Just it makes zero sense when you can get people to sign up for a service that they're still not signing up for, even though it's free if you have HBO, which is weird. That's not a plug. That's just as like, do a better job advertising your own product, idiots. And you can tie them in for a month. It's like, here's this episode, next week this episode. It's like, no, let's just do it. Maybe they just want to dump it. Maybe, I mean, that's the only reason I can possibly think of them going to it's a movie, is because they want to dump it, which would be not really good news.
Well, although not unexpected news, because everything I've seen from it has been kind of,
yeah,
not yay. It's just kind of, there it is.
I mean, I hope it's great. It's not that I dislike Zack Snyder. I distensely care for
the Christmas tree when he took all the tinsel off.
Because some of his work is atrociously bad. And I really, really like some of his other stuff. I really like Watchmen, as in the movie, not the HBO release, which is much better. But I thought Watchmen was really good. Most people don't like Zack Snyder's take on Watchmen. I thought it was excellent. So not like I don't want success for the guy, but you need a better track record, buddy.
Well, he might get there someday, but
hopefully with this, that would be awesome.
Yeah, maybe it's going to come out and it'll surprise everybody and we'll go, ooh. I'm not holding my breath. Mm-hmm. As evidenced by the fact that I'm not blue, everything seems to be green on my side of the screen today.
Yes, it does.
Just saying. Anyway, did you want to go ahead and do review a thing?
Show up.
Okay. I have no idea what you've got this week because we forgot to talk about that in pre-pro. Hi, Ted.
Hi, Ted. I have a pair of remake sets, and you have a remake news, or not news, reviews. So,
Well, I had the news. I've also got reviews, but I'll get to those in a minute.
yes, you do. So we are talking about remakes because of the Wonka potential disaster or waste of time,
Make it
however you want to
gone.
look at it. And I'm going to start with and about remakes. I mean, we talk a lot about remakes and how Hollywood is just trying to, cash in on this. Like, remakes are as old as the hills. The Wizard of Oz, 1939, is a remake. Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde from 1932 is a remake. A Star is Born from the 50s with Judy Garland was itself a remake, which of course was remade 2 more times. So this is a time-honored tradition for Hollywood. I mean, they just revel in remakes. Maltese Falcon is a remake. I mean,
they just added the word reboot because computers became popular and they had a term that meant remake.
So this is hardly a new phenomenon in Hollywood. If something works once, they'll see if they can make it work again. And all too often, they're going about it the wrong way. You don't remake great films. You remake films that somehow either miss the target or miss their audience, and see if you can get the audience the next time. Those are the movies you remake. And I have an excellent example of that later. But first, I'm going to go with the classic Screw Up. So speaking of classic films, 1960, Alfred Hitchcock basically invented the slasher genre with Psycho.
Yes.
One of the best suspense films ever. Absolutely a classic. And also caused the audience to completely lose their anchor because the star, spoiler alert for a film which is now an incredible, 61 years old, the star dies. So, which basically had never been done in a certainly not in a major film. It's like, this is the person you identify with, and has all the classic Hitchcock things where a person actually does some things which aren't really good, but you're rooting for them because you like the person personally. And then it's like, oops, what the hell happened to my movie? She's dead. And then it takes off from there. So in 1998, which at least is long enough to find a new audience, except Psycho doesn't need to find a new audience because it's an incredibly well-known film. Back to my original point, you don't remake classics that everybody knows. Gus Van Sant, an incredibly great director, decides to remake Psycho. And for the most part, does it shot for shot, which is another really weird thing to do. It's typically, when you remake a film, you find a different hook. You find something new to work with in it. And about the only thing he found to work with that was different is he made the character of Norman Bates even more disgusting and made him much less sympathetic, which is a huge problem because you're supposed to sympathize with Norman Bates because he has this terrible relationship with his mother and he's obviously emotionally abused and he feels trapped. And yet early on in the film, there's a scene where he is in his office in the motel, and the actress is, in this case, played by Anne Heche, which, again, I'll get to the horrific casting choices in this film. That's one of the horrific casting choices. Anne Heche is a good actress, by far. But she is nowhere near the status of Janet Leigh was back in 1960. Anne Heche was not a major star in 98. And she's a competent actress. But this movie is wrong on so many levels. So he's watching her as she gets ready to take a shower. Same thing in 1960. Difference is, in 1998, little Norman, who, by the way, is played by Vince Vaughn, going back to horrific casting choices, excellent actor, completely wrong for Norman Bates, and I'll get into that why. He is clearly masturbating while he is watching her. So they dialed up the creep factor like to 11 early in the film. So how exactly are you supposed to identify with Norman Bates? Because you're supposed to. Because that's part of the magic of Psycho, is you identify with the lead who committed a crime, but you feel sympathy for her. and you identify with this poor guy who originally is Anthony Perkins, who's like trapped in this horrible relationship with his mom, can't get away, and discovers this horrific murder. And okay, this guy is like not only peering at the woman, but clearly like, I think I'll watch my guests. I'll put them in the special room so I can watch them get naked and I can pleasure myself. It's like super disgusting, super terrible choice. Because now I can't sympathize with this guy. This guy's weird. Something's wrong with this guy. You're not supposed to think that this early in the film, dumbass. So what a horrific choice. And let's go on with the casting, even further into the casting. So Julianne Moore plays the Vera Miles character. She's the sister who is looking for her disappeared sister. No problem with Julianne Moore. She plays it a little more aggressive than I would like. And again, that's direction and script. I think they went a little overboard with that. But it makes sense within the context of the story because, yeah, of course she would be mad and aggressive. She comes to find the boyfriend, who in this film is played by Viggo Mortensen. Okay. Viggo Mortensen is terrific. Here's the problem. Viggo Mortensen should have been Norman Bates. Viggo Mortensen can play sensitive, somewhat damaged. He can play. He is a much broader palette and much better tool set than Vince Vaughn. And I like Vince Vaughn, but he should have been the boyfriend. Because the boyfriend doesn't have a whole lot to do other than just kind of react and, well, I'll distract him and you go up to the house. I mean, there's not a lot for him to do. Vince Vaughn would have been great. Viggo Mortensen is completely freaking wasted in this film, being the okie doke guy. If he had been Norman Bates, and if they had cut the ridiculous freaking masturbation scene, this movie could have been much, much better. But instead, it's just like, I mean, literally, this is the best example I can think of the terrible practice of a paint-by-numbers remake. It's like, let's look what they did. Let's do it the same way, except without the artistry. And it looks exactly like one of those freaking paint-by-numbers things that you got when you were a kid. And you hold it up and it's like, yep, that looks just like Van Gogh. It's like, no, it doesn't. It looks like a gross representation that never should have been done, except by maybe like a 12-year-old. And that's basically what this is. This is if a 12-year-old did Psycho, a not very bright one at that, which is shocking because Gus Van Sant is a terrific director. And this movie is just crap.
I get the feeling that this was a studio idea.
Absolutely had to be. And again, why? Just re-release the damn thing. You want to make money? Re-release one of the best films of its kind ever made. It's like if you have to be stupid and colorize it because people won't see black and white movies, do that. You wouldn't be able to because they wouldn't allow it. But
this was about the time that Sin City came out, and that was black and white.
Yeah, this is absolutely one of the worst remakes because it's not a good movie to begin with. If this was released with no previous, if this was the first iteration of Psycho, it would be like, it was okay. But in comparison, it's like it's horrifically bad. I mean, there's very little they did right, which is astounding since they followed the freaking script like 90%. Absolutely stunning. There's no suspense. And I'm not talking because, the story is like the original Psycho still works for me. And yeah, I've only seen it like probably 25 times. So it's not a matter of I know what's going to happen. It's how horrifically they tell the story of what happens and how clearly there's something really, really wrong with Norman Bates very early on. It's a bad, bad performance. I mean, I really can't think of a good performance in the film, which is stunning because Gus Van Sant, again, he's an excellent director. Every actor in here, I don't particularly care for Anne Heche, but she's a competent actress. Vince Vaughn is a very good actor. Julianne Moore, actually don't care for her that much. Very good actress. Viggo Mortensen is terrific. And it's just, he has nothing to do. Really, really classic example of the remakes you do not make.
Well, actually, I think I've got another one.
I know you do.
Going back to Willy Wonka, because the original movie, now I've heard that it's based on a Roald Dahl. I keep wanting to say Ronald, because Roald is missing a letter.
It is.
Roald Dahl book. And I've heard that the Dahl family has looked at the original movie with Gene Wilder as Willy Wonka and said that's not the way it was in the book.
Which is true. It's not.
It's not. But you know what? It still worked.
It does.
A majority of the premise is there, and sometimes maybe you should just let it go. Because if somehow you've missed the story of this, Willy Wonka is a guy who runs a candy factory that no one is allowed into. And there's a lot of secrets that go beyond this. But he's put out 5 golden tickets into Wonka bars. And if you find a golden ticket, you and a family member or whatever get to tour the Willy Wonka factory. And there's a grand prize at the end of it, but no one knows what it is unless, you think. And then you go, oh, I get that. And the 5 people who win the tickets are Snobby Kid, Snobby Kid, Snobby Kid, Snobby Kid, and Charlie. 4 of the 5 kids are just horrible people with horrible parents that get to go into this factory. Yeah. And Charlie and his grandpa, who I never really understood what was the deal with the grandpa. He'd been in bed for 20 years, ? But we got a golden ticket, and look, boing, boing, boing. I'm doing a dance number around the bedroom, kitchen, small hovel that they live in, because they're a very, very poor family. Yeah, fine. Anyway, bizarre things happen in the chocolate factory. One kid eats some gum and turns into a blueberry. It's one of those things that you have to watch, and I'm going to recommend watching the original version, because while it is a family-friendly movie, there's also some horror bits to it, because that thing on the boat freaked me the hell out when I first saw this movie.
Yes.
Back in 1970-something. There's comedy, there's horror, there's family stuff, there's morals. It's a good, it's a classic movie at this point, I think. With a bunch of actors. Actually, apart from Gene Wilder, I don't think anyone was a big actor. No. Roy Kinnear was in it, but he's never, I don't know that he's led in anything. Nora Denny was in it, and she's always been a secondary actress, not a lead actress. And I'm not knocking any of these people. There's really good actors and stuff.
Yeah. Jack Albertson is the grandpa, but he's always like a secondary guy. But he's great.
So yeah, watch the original, and then oh dear. When did this come out anyway? 2005. Tim Burton, who is normally a reasonably good, if not crack-laden director, his stuff is weird a lot.
Yes.
Decided to remake this, not entirely shot for shot.
And by a lot, you mean all the time.
Yeah, I guess I do. It's wow. Decided to remake it in his vision, which the Dahl family has said it's closer to the book, and I'm like, I don't want to read the book now, because if this is closer, this movie got weird.
I can attest it is closer to the book, but yeah, go right ahead. You've got some bigger name actors. You got Anna Sophia Robb is in this. Christopher Lee is in this. Helena Bonham Carter is married to Tim Burton, so of course she's in this. Not that she wouldn't be in it on her own anyway. She's a very good actress anyway. Freddie Highmore plays Charlie Bucket. But the worst bit of casting in this, and I'm going to explain why, is Johnny Depp as Willy Wonka. Because Johnny Depp does not play Willy Wonka in the movie. Johnny Depp plays Mike Myers playing Willy Wonka in this movie. They didn't. To me, it just looks like they did not want Johnny Depp. They got Johnny Depp because he's a bigger name, but they wanted Mike Myers to play Willy Wonka because, my God, they even turned him into Mike Myers. At no point in this movie can you look at this guy and go, oh,
that's Johnny Depp playing Willy Wonka. No, you go, that's Mike Myers. I thought Johnny Depp was in this film, and he's just not. Um, all of the stuff that was in the first movie that was questionably creepy, where you look at it and go, was that a creepy thing? And you kind of go, it was kind of a creepy thing. The way they seem to have killed off that child. They didn't kill anybody. But in this one, you kind of go, no, that was creepier. The songs are, of course, going to be creepier because Burton brought in Danny Elfman. I love Danny Elfman. I really do. But most of his music, when you get into the musical scores that he's done, not his Oingo Boingo stuff, that's more fun.
Yes.
You get into his musical scores, and they're all creepy. So, of course, the music in this is creepy. The guy I feel sorry for in this movie is an actor who goes by the name of Deep Roy. That might be his real name. I don't know. He played all of the Oompa Loompas.
Yes.
Now, before the Oompa Loompas were played by, I think it was 6 or 7, I don't know the politically correct term for little people these days.
Yeah, they were little people.
Little people. Deep Roy qualifies, but they made him even smaller and had him play like, 700 or 800 Oompa Loompas at a time. Now, a lot of it's digital effects. I get that. But the songs the Oompa Loompas did in this movie just did not work as well.
No.
And at the end of this movie, you kind of leave the theater or turn off your DVD player or whatever and kind of go, why did you do this? Because it's not as good. It's not as fun. It's an exercise in money grabbing. As near as I can tell, that's all there is to it. You seem to have a comment. What is it?
No, I completely agree. And that's the key. It's not as fun. It is more accurate to the book, but it still somehow loses because Roald Dahl's work is always really, really dark. But there always has like this light heart inside it. And this movie doesn't have that.
Its heart was removed and replaced with a rock.
Yeah.
Not the rock. That would have made it fun.
Would have made it fun. Yeah, and Johnny Depp's performance is completely... I mean, he does odd performances, obviously, deliberately, and Tim Burton asks for odd performances deliberately, but this one was odd, like in, why did you guys make these choices? Because he comes off as such a character. Yeah, and totally. I mean, it's like he's channeling Mike Myers, but it's also, he's so damaged, it's like, it's painful to watch. It's not fun to watch at all. This is a bad, bad movie. Yeah, I mean, it somehow the estate, the family forgot that it's, in the end, it's still a fun story. There's a heart to it, and there's no heart to this version, and it's not fun. It's like, this is just a bad, and especially since it's supposed to be a family film and supposed to be good for kids, it's like, no, it's not.
No, it's not.
Not at all. Completely missed the mark on this one.
I don't know why. They had the talent to do a good movie.
Oh yeah.
And didn't. So
I think they completely misinterpreted the book. And they went for the weirdness and they went for the darkness and they lost the sight of, oh, there's some soul to it. It's like, you didn't read it right, basically, is what happened.
We've only got 4 of the Infinity Gems. Why is the glove not working? That kind of thing.
Yeah, I think they only had the glove. I don't think they had any of the Infinity Gems for this movie.
No.
I mean, this might be both of them. This might be Burton and Mr. Depp's worst movie for both. I mean, not in just in collaboration, but period. Because it's bad. It is bad. And
I can't think of anybody in this movie where you go, oh, this is the best performance by that actor.
That would be sad. That would be very sad.
Oh, poor you.
Well, I want to
tell me you've got something good to finish the show with.
Yes, I do. I want to turn to the light to some extent, although it's a horror a set of horror films, but this is a case where you remake a film that didn't quite work, whether it didn't work itself or didn't find the audience, and you make it better. So this is based on a George Romero, which some people think of as a George Romero classic. No, it's not Night of the Living Dead. It's The Crazies, which he put out 5 years after Night of the Living Dead. This came out in 1973, and Mr. Romero directed it and wrote the screenplay for it. And it is similar to Night of the Living Dead in that it has to do with the release of some sort of a toxin which causes bad reactions with people. Although in this case, the people are alive. They're not dead like they were in Night of the Living Dead. So some plane crashes. It has some experimental military gas, whatever, and gets into the water supply, and it makes people crazy, hence the name, The Crazies. So the military tries to come in and they try to lock it down because people are going crazy and they're killing people. And it's the conflict between the military who are trying to do the right thing, and then it winds up escalating, and some of the military kind of go crazy themselves, not because they're infected, just because they're being jerks, and they're killing people just because, oh, look, this is kind of fun to kill people. So it becomes a conflict between the townspeople, some of them, a few of them who are not infected, and they're trying to escape, and they're trying to fight off the military at the same time. So it's a conflict between them and the military is alternately not good people and incompetent. So there's the story. Didn't make a whole lot of money when it came out. Like, I don't have the box office numbers in front of me, but definitely not really a successful film. Although very low budget, I guarantee you it probably made 10 times its budget, maybe 100 times, because that's what Romero specialized in. But not that well remembered, other than like aficionados. But frankly, compared to Night of the Living Dead, this movie's not good. Another very lesser known cast, and for good reason, because nobody in this movie can act. All the acting is bad. The movie itself, it's okay. But clearly, this is the kind of film that has an interesting premise, has an interesting story.
Wow.
If you do the right things with it, you can make a good film, which in 2010 they did.
I found the box office if you want it.
Yeah, what was it?
From 1973, a budget of $275,000. Yep. A box office take of $143,784.
Wow. So it actually lost money. I'm shocked that this film would lose money, but I'm not that surprised that this film lost money because it's not a good movie. The fact that anybody looks fondly on this movie is just kind of surprising to me, because my thought is they remember seeing it 20 or 30 years ago, and they're only remembering, that was a cool story, instead of remembering that's not well told, because that's the issue. It's not a good movie at all. Well, 2010, they remade it, and with a good cast, Radha Mitchell, who is probably pretty well known to sci-fi aficionados as in the lead in Silent Hill. Timothy Olyphant is the lead dude. So same premise, except this time they actually have a coherent script. They actually have excellent acting. And again, it's the couple, in this case, Timothy Olyphant and Radha Mitchell. They are not infected, and they're trying to survive, and they're trying to figure out how this happened. And it plays out much better in how this progresses. In this case, they made some key changes. Radha Mitchell is a competent doctor, and her husband is the local sheriff, Timothy Olyphant. So they have reasons to be key players instead of just regular folk. And one person goes crazy at a ball game, and this happens very early on. Olyphant has to take action to prevent him from doing some horrific damage. And it goes on from there. And then the military steps in, and the military is set up as more doing their job, because after all, they do want to contain this outbreak. They don't want anyone who could be infected to leave and then go to another area and infect them. And then before you know it, oh, look, it's like COVID-19, except you go nuts and kill people when you get infected instead of get sick. So the military is more sympathetic in this version of it. They're still more or less the antagonists, because after all, they are trying to stop our heroes. But there are much more suspenseful set pieces in this than there were in the first. Again, it helps to have actors who can deliver lines believably instead of like, I just read that off the cue card. Did I get that right? So a huge improvement. Surprisingly, like on IMDb, and it has better ratings on IMDb, has better ratings on Metacritic, but not significantly so. And this movie is, I don't know, 4 or 5 times better than the original. It's not like one of the greatest horror thrillers ever, but it's a really good horror thriller. And again, this one kind of flew under the radar, so I wouldn't be surprised if they remake this story again. But they don't need to, because the 2010 version of The Crazies is exactly what a remake is supposed to do. Take a story that failed, in this case, both financially and just in the performance itself, and redo it and do it right. So The Crazies 2010 is exactly what remakes should be. Take a film that's not that well known, that didn't succeed, fix the things that were wrong, and you've got a great movie.
Do decent special effects. I mean, I get it if you want to remake a movie for that, because if you have like a massive jump in special effects,
then that's a good reason too, for sure.
I can get that.
Although that's one of the few things they got right in the 1973 version of Crazies. The effects are fine. That's about the only thing that's done right in that film.
Oh, jeez.
Not a good movie.
Yeah.
But if you were, let's say you're looking through your queue and you have the remake of Psycho and the original Crazies, which should I watch? Watch the original Crazies, because it's better.
Because you haven't watched it yet.
And it's not a good movie, but it's better than the Psycho remake.
See, there we go. We still have all that COVID crap going on outside, and we've given you stuff not to watch. Sorry about that. But we do have one good thing to watch, and I'm going to let you know that the Crazies, which, I just saw it here somewhere. Where was it? It's on Pluto TV, which is free.
Free. So, it's also on Amazon Prime. So if you already have Prime, it's available on Amazon Prime.
See, there you go.
But we've 2 ways to watch it.
Giving you some stuff to watch, some stuff to avoid, and some stuff to rewatch. Because I know you've watched Charlie and the Chocolate Factory before, but you've watched it with Willy Wonka. So there. Anyway.
Exactly.
You know,
if you haven't watched Willy Wonka, for God's sakes, please watch that.
Absolutely.
Or the original Psycho.
So there. Stuff to watch. Stay home, because COVID still exists. And that sucks. I'm tired of it. But if you get the opportunity to do the vaccine, because then you won't get it. Ta-da! What a concept. Otherwise, stay home and watch a movie.
Captain, we're losing power in the warp engines.
I think we should be leaving now.
I'm going to go home and sleep with my wife.
And on that unusually harmonious bombshell, it is time to end.
I am very disappointed!
Man, we have a weird job.
It's shameful, but, it's a living.
And like that, he's gone.